It's a beautiful January morning, a little chilly. I do have a small heater down here which you can't see. But today I'm going to make, well, this phone amplifier. I made this one here out of just plain pine, a simple 2x4s that I had here in stock, just to see how it works. Call this my prototype. It works rather well. So I thought I'd make another one, except this time I'm going to use a different wood. Let's see. I got here, well, it looks like a 2x4. It comes from a pallet that I took apart back in August. It is heavy, so it's dense. I suspect it's oak, might be white oak. I'll have a better idea once I cut into it. So I thought to make this one, this speaker amplifier out of this wood, this chunk of 2x4. When I did the original one here, just simple pine construction 2x4, doesn't look very nice, at least it didn't. That's why I painted it. Maybe this one, I won't have to paint it. The wood might actually come up, be rather good looking wood. So all I'll just do is just put out a Verathane. Now I haven't cut into this board yet. I have no idea how it's going to cut. I know it's going to be hard and it's heavy. So, well, let's go through it together. I'm going to put that aside for a moment. I found this. We were taking some things apart in the house. Instead of throwing this out, it was a roll-up desk. And I decided to, well, I was going to take it apart. And then I realized, you know what, this is actually flat and it covers my table saw rather well and it rolls. As you can see, this was the roll-up portion of the desk. Rolls up nicely and it covers my tabletop, so I can use this as a workbench. Just repurposing what I have. So if I roll this up, I'm going to expose my table saw. And we're ready to go. Here's my prototype. I just had to take some dimensions from my prototype. See exactly what I did. I made it to match my cell phone, and I'm using my cell in order to record this, so I can't show you it. So it looks like this was 7 inches in length by 4 inches by 1.5 inches. So I'm going to make one of these from, well, that 2x4. Here is that chunk of what I think is oak that I'm going to use. Now there's also a huge knot here in here. Got to cut that out. You can see it's also not very straight. It's actually rather warped. Yeah, if you get a good look at this, and that's typical of a pallet wood. So I'm going to slice off this portion, cut it from here to there, so I have these two ends to work with. And I'm going to do that here on my table saw. Oh, that's going to be fun. So I got my miter gauge, and I'm going to use the miter gauge in order to cut this piece. It's not touching the fence over on that side, so I'll go ahead and do this. This is so hard, I know from experience that my little table saw here from Craftsman, this has to come from the 1990s, 1992, 93. It isn't strong enough to cut through this hardwood all in one shot, so I'm going to have to do it in small little bites. So here we go. Well, I got to get the vacuum cleaner on as well, then I'll come back here. Just a little bit of dust collection. Yeah, blew a fuse. Yeah, I got too much on this particular line when I started this table saw. The heater I have down here uses up too much power, and well, my 15 amp circuit blew. Good thing I rewired this garage back in the summertime so I don't have any accidents, electrically speaking. So I turned off my heater, and we'll do this again. Since I'm only taking small bites, off camera it's a little foggy here as well. I'm going to do all the rest of the cuts and cut this here in 2 pieces off camera. From the 2 pieces, I decided to choose this one. It's the straightest that way, but it has a bit of a bow going in this direction. So I want to straighten that out. Now's a good time to do it, so at least whatever blanks I have left over, it'll be prepped for future projects. In order to do that, I need a straight edge. Here's a straight edge. Another board that I have left over from other projects. It's straight on one side. So I'm going to place this straight side, or is it this side? Nope. Yeah. That's the straight edge. I'm going to place this straight edge against my fence and use this as a guide in order to make this edge right here a little straighter. To do that, I'm going to place this on my tabletop. I'm going to need some double-sided tape. Put this piece on top, prep it, and I'll go ahead and start making little slices. There's my straight board. You can see I put double-sided tape. Now I'm going to place this way on top of that tape, so it slightly hangs over the edge. Don't want a lot of it to hang over, but enough so I can take a slice. Relatively straight on one side. It has a bow that goes this way, so I just want to take a slice off of this one side. As I roll it on the side of the fence, it'll be a straight edge here on the fence, and hopefully it'll give me a straight cut on this, at least on this one face. I don't need the miter for this particular cut, so I'm going to remove it from the table saw. Put it back over there. That's its little perch that I have for it when it's not in use. I do need the fence, however. And the fence has some stuff on it that I'm going to probably use. I'm going to take small cuts. Let's see. Looks like about 3/8 of an inch cut. I'm going to take small slices as I work my way all the way to the top. Really going to have to build myself a no clearance, a zero clearance plate. Turn off my suction. So as I said, I'm going to have to build myself a zero clearance plate right here such that these little thin pieces don't go down in between the blade. Nevertheless, when they do, just stop the blade and let the finish. Let's get on with the work. So I finished this cut. Now this side right here ought to be perfectly straight with respect to this side. Let's find out. There we go. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now you can't see it much on camera, but there you go right there. It's completely straight. The double-sided tape, that was a no-go in this cold weather. It kept coming undone. So I wound up having to put in a couple of screws. I've done this before. Put in a couple of screws and then go ahead, and it's much safer, at least for me and my hands. So it's done. Now I can take this face, flip it over, put it up against the fence, and clean up the opposite side. So both sides are now flat. Got a lot of burning here. I gotta clean that blade again, sharpen it. Gotta be flat. Yeah, that's good on this side. And that's good. So these two surfaces now are completely flat, parallel to each other. All I gotta do now is worry about the top and bottom, clean them up a bit. I got some options on how I can do this one. I can do the entire piece on a jointer that I have back here behind me, or I can just make the slices, which are, and written down here, 7 inches long, so I'll go about 7.5 inches. Maybe I can do a 7.5 inch piece, which will bring me close to my final product, and then just finish that particular little surface here. A lot less work than having to do the whole piece. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Just cut it off at 7 inches and finish that one block. the block cut. I polished up the ends, get rid of the burning. See, it's rather white. So I'm going to go with a white oak on both ends. Still got some burning on the sides I need to remove, and that's just going to require some sanding. But before I get to that one, I'm going to sand it right here. The thing about this table saw, it also has a cast iron flat surface, very flat. So I'm going to use that flat surface in order to do a little bit of pre-sanding and see how far I can go with this. Because it's not exactly flat, it's, well, that's not bad. So I'll start with this. I have a jointer. I could send this through the jointer, but for a little piece like this, and it just requires a little bit of sanding. Need to round off the ends. And in a matter of a couple of minutes, this will be properly sanded flat. Just a little bit of elbow grease. So here it is. I've done some sanding on this flat cast iron. You can see the wood itself. It's rather clear. I believe it's oak, maybe white oak. Now the sides, well, they require some polishing as well. Here's the back side and what I started with. See the rough sawn surface. And after a little bit of polishing, 5 minutes worth of polishing on this grit. You can see how smooth that is. Now I could do the same on the back side, but instead I'm going to use my drum sander. I built this drum sander for this very purpose. Let's see how it works. So here's my drum sander. This tabletop right here, which I made, is completely flat. So I put my sanded surface on top of this table. It will be flat. Everything is parallel. The drum is parallel to this table. And the table itself, I put a little bubble down here. You can see it, it's level. Yeah, if I get it in focus for you, the little bubbles in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and drum sand this top part through here. And let's see how that works. That's pretty good for a first pass. Obviously, I got to do some work on this one, but that's pretty good for a first pass. Clean off that one edge. Well, let's finish it. And there we have it. The little wee corner here that hasn't been touched, but I can finish that off about the time when I'm ready to do the entire piece. So both sides are now done. This one by hand and this one by this drum sander. Here is the wood, semi-finished. I polished this using 80 grit and 220 grit. And if you look closely on this one, you'll notice that it's more like maple than it is oak. This has more the characteristics of maple. Of course, it has the nail holes from being pallet wood. But the other side is in perfect shape. And I'm going to have to go with maple more than oak. It's a beautiful piece. The next step is to drill a groove here in order to fit my cell phone. Now my cell phone has a speaker on the side. If this were a cell phone, my speaker would be here. Normally speakers are here on other cell phones. Mine happens to be on the side. Consequently, I have to sink in the entire cell phone along this length. So I'm going to use this drill bit on my router to route a groove right along here. Here's my Mastercraft router table that I found when I was walking the neighborhood. Down underneath is my Craftsman router. To marry the two, well, that took a little bit of doing. But nevertheless, here it is. This is the router I'm going to use. And here are some guidelines on my workpiece. So I'm going to put a hole here, drag it across, and stop here. And I got some guidelines for me to follow here and here. And I'm going to have to do this in several cuts. I can't go down to the depth that I need all in one shot. So I'm going to do this probably 3 times. Well, let's do it. I set up the drill press. I got a spade bit here, and I'm going to drill a hole all the way down to the slot. And here it is, the final product. I have to do some final sanding to remove my location marks. Maybe I'll chamfer the edges. But otherwise, this is my cell phone amplifier. As you can see, my slot is the entire length of my cell phone. That's only because my speaker is right here on the side of the cell phone. Others, the speakers are at the end of the cell phone, so this slot doesn't have to be as long, just as wide as the phone itself. Nevertheless, I will complete all of this off camera and show you the final product.